On my way over today, God spoke to me. God dealt with me very strongly. We're gonna finish this thing on a high note, and I believe that when we walk out of here, you're gonna go start multiple businesses. I believe that with all my heart. But let's remember this: everything that we're doing, it all comes down to the original transaction. If what we're doing is just building a business, I don't care what my net worth is. I don't care how many millions of dollars I may have in the bank. That matters not. Because what we're doing and the original transaction is I want to see a soul saved. The whole house of cards can come down. But the original transaction has always got to be, I want to see somebody saved. I want to see a family restored. I want to see addicts give their life to Jesus. You can't buy that. What's the price of a soul? So if I can keep this in my mind, if this is my heartbeat, if this is my goal, is to remember I'm doing this for the kingdom, then guess what? God is pleased. I've got several people in my church. I'm very blessed to pastor. Several families in my church. You know the reason why they're sitting on the pews and they're winning souls is because they came to work for AAA Asphalt. And Brother Thornton, I taught them Bible studies while we were raking asphalt. I taught them Bible studies while we were changing oil. I taught them Bible studies while we were in the truck riding. And they didn't really know what was going on until they started feeling tears run down their face. It wasn't about the money we was going to make that day. But it was about that man's family. It was, my God. It's got to be about the original transaction. If it's for anything other than that, then it's for nothing. My God. You know what? I feel the Holy Ghost in this house. Can we just lift our hands to the Lord? Lord, we love you, Jesus. God, we're so grateful for all that you are. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, God. Lord, this is not about just being wealthy and being rich and having things, God. But Lord, it's about the propagation of the gospel. Oh, Jesus, help us, Lord. Help us, Lord, to be about your business. Hallelujah. I love that statement when Jesus, his parents come to get him and take him out of the temple there. He said, he's 12 years old. He said, I've got to be about my Father's business. Well, everything that I own and everything that I do, guess what? It belongs to him. And you know what? That's a huge relief on my part. Because guess what? I'm not responsible for it at that point. He is. Because it belongs to him. I was born and raised in northeast Arkansas, up there in the flat Delta country. It was very, very, very poor. Humble beginnings. My dad has a ninth grade education. My mother at the time had a high school education, but it was the time when, you see, the place I'm from is a place that time forgot, the Delta. Time forgot that place. My dad quit school at the age of 15 and went to work on the farm. He was just an old farm hand there. And my mom, she raised 4 children. And we lived in some of the most pitiful places that you really couldn't even qualify them to be houses. I'm not resentful about my upbringing. I'm thankful for it. I'm not resentful about that. I remember, you could lay in the bed and you could count the stars through the tin roof, the holes. and during the day, Brother Thornton, you could count the chickens under the floor. And, the old knot holes done falling out. But you know what? We had a good life. We raised a garden. We had pigs and, different types of things that we never went hungry. But very humble beginnings and very, it was one of those things that I don't resent, but one could resent if they wanted to. So as I was growing up, my first piece of pizza that I ate, I was 10 years old. I didn't even know what pizza was. One of the church families took us to Pizza Hut, and they put that pizza out there. I was like, wow, what's that? Very, backwoods kind of deal, And so as I grew up, got into middle school, my mom said, you know what? I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be a teacher. At this time, my dad was working for a state representative there locally. She was one of the wealthiest people there in that part of the country. Her family was extremely wealthy. My dad took care of her yard, and my mom was the maid in the house. She had the maid uniform, the whole nine. She made $50 a week. My dad made about $200. And so, man, we were, just that family. We lived on a street, Union Street, Wilson, Arkansas. At the time we were, and I don't mean any of this is not derogatory, so please don't take it as such. We were the only white family on the street across the tracks. Just where we grew up. It's where we were. And so, as I grew, and Mom went back to college, and she became a school teacher, this is where the dream started, because I began to be exposed to a different lifestyle. I began to be exposed to hey, you know what? People do actually have money, and they don't have to wonder where their next meal is coming from, and it's a different world. And so my dad had a lawnmower, and we started cutting the churchyard. He didn't charge the church because the church probably honestly couldn't even afford it, but we started cutting the churchyard, me and my brother and my dad. And just from there, I would dream of owning my own business while I was riding on that lawnmower. One of these days, maybe just one of these days, I can make my own money. And maybe these dreams just began to flow. And so that's where it all started for me. And it wasn't when I graduated high school that all of this came to fruition. It wasn't when I was 30 years old that all this came to fruition. But it was 2012. I was driving truck, operations manager for a warehousing company, and working myself stupid and bringing home $540 a week. That was 2012. Do the math. It was 12 years ago. My wife had, she has education. She's an accountant. And she had just left her job to marry me and move to the Jackson area. And we worked the numbers. My wife wanted to be at home with the children. I said, you know what? Let's just do it. You stay at home with the kids. And she had never had that opportunity. you stay at home, and we budgeted our lifestyle with a bring home of $540 a week. We didn't have a car note. You know, I wasn't trying to live outside of my means. But we had a very, very, very tight budget. Even to the point to where it took about $25 to feed us at Wendy's on Sunday night. And so I would do everything that I could to make sure that on Sunday night we could go out with everybody else and eat after church at the Wendy's. And we had to budget for that. It's 2012. But let me tell you this. And Brother Thornton's not paying me to say this. I've never, you hear this, I've never missed paying a tithe check. You want to know how a family of 4 can survive? You give back that tithing. That belongs to Him. And let me show you how that works, because there was one October, brother, things had gotten tight. There was never a question. My wife never come to me and said, hey, what about tithing this week? It was never, that was a given. Never a question. She did everything she was supposed to do. But let me just show you how God works. You know what? It got tight. Electrical bill came. Guess how much that electrical bill was? It was $32. I called the energy company and said, hey, y'all have made a mistake. I don't want another surprise. No, Mr. Slaughter, this is what you owe. I said, are you sure? I'm not going to be surprised. Mr. Slaughter, that's all you owe. God knew what we needed. And guess what? November, it was $28. God knows what He's doing. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, if He can't trust me with $540 a week, He would never be able to trust me with $5 million. My God. If He can't trust you with a little bit, He sure can't trust you with a whole lot. He is not going to put you in that position. He would rather you make it to heaven than you to be blessed abundantly and lose your soul. Well, I got stepped over for a promotion. And y'all, I've got 20 minutes and I'm not 20 minutes away. I got stepped over for a promotion. And the best thing ever happened. I trained the kid that actually got the promotion. He worked in my warehouse. Here I am, I'm 30 years old and I'm training this 19-year-old kid. But because his daddy is the man, had been there for 40-something years, well, guess who got the sales position? Not me. Well, I turned in my 2-week notice pretty quickly. I'm sitting here working 55 hours a week for a little over it was $700-something, and then after health insurance and taxes, I was bringing home $540. I was working myself to death for peanuts. I'd saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars my first year there by getting their inventory actually right. Saved $800,000 on the inventory. You know what I got for it? Pat on the back. Good job, Josh. Can you do it next year? That's exactly what are you kidding me? That's not what you said when I hired on, man. You said if I did this good, there was going to be a payday, and I got a pat on the back. Best thing ever happened to me. Don't be afraid of rejection. And don't grow spiteful when you're rejected. We got to adapt that mentality that Joseph had. Hey, look, you throw me back in the pen, I'm going to be the best man there too. You see, we're apostolic. And wherever our feet land, that's where we're going to be the best one on the job. If I'm hired to sweep a floor, I'm going to be the best one sweeping the floor. If I'm hired to paint a wall, I'm going to be the best one painting the wall because I'm apostolic and I represent him. So the best thing that ever happened was I got rejected. I went to work for another company. This lady hired me. And man, my second week there, boss man come by and patted me on the back and said, hey, I got you $1 raise. I mean, I'm 2 weeks into the deal. I said, hey, look, guess what? You're going to give me another before it's over with. Because I'm going to show you I'm the best you got. If we don't have that mentality, you've got to have that mentality. You've got to know you're a child of the King. And wherever you walk into, you're the King's kid. You've got to know if I'm in competition with something, I've got a hand up already. Because do you know who my daddy is? There's got to be that air about you. You've got to walk in that faith. You've got to walk in that. Long story short, that was 2012. I'm getting ready to go over to Pearl to educate myself on some hydraulic systems that we were dealing with. I get there, and the largest hailstorm right now on recorded history that ever hit Jackson, Mississippi, came through there. Well, a couple of weeks prior to that, me and my friend were sitting down talking, saying, hey, what about this business? See, that dream was still alive that I was having when I was riding on that lawnmower. He said, so we were talking about it, and he said, I've got the trade skills. I know how to do this. He was a glass man. He said, and I know what it's going to take to build these insulated glass units. He said, and I know we can do this. I got to crunching numbers. It was going to cost us a startup neighborhood of $10,000 to $15,000 to start up the deal. I shoved it off. Well, just a few weeks later, the largest hailstorm ever to hit record happens, and it obliterates the Clinton, the Jackson metro area, Pearl, Florence, all of those areas right through there, obliterated. But guess what? I needed a glass company like today. Let me show you how God works. So the lady that hired me at that new company, I'm telling her, man, I really do this. She said, hey, I can open an LLC. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah, doesn't cost much. I said, are you sure? She said, absolutely. You tell me what you want to name it, and we'll get it open. I gave her the name, and she got that thing open. I said, hey, well, by the way, I'm going to turn in my 2-week notice. She said, I'm glad for you. Go follow your dream. Well, let me just flip the script really, really quickly. Her name is Michelle. And Michelle now works for me. I'll just tell you how God works. But so Miss Michelle, she helped me. She got all that thing opened, and man, we immediately had books of business because all of this glass was busted. We did really good. We pushed through it. We went door to door. Didn't have to do much advertising because the business was there. And I said, okay, well, look, once this is over with, we've got to have a game plan. Once all this work is done, we've got to have a game plan for the thereafter. And so I said, you know what? I know a prime target is going to be apartment complexes because they're always going to have broken glass. They got kids playing ball. They've got lawnmowers running. And then, you know, in our neck of the woods, you got boyfriends mad at. Right. Lord help me. So there's always broken glass, and so that's where we were attracted to. And we had our residential business coming up, but our meat and potatoes, what was going to feed us, was going to be the apartment complex stuff. And so that's what we did, and it's what I was attracted to and went for. And here we go doing that. And the lawnmowers are not running in January. Kids are not playing outside, so that part of the business really slows down. I said, well, you've always got to be proactive. And so I was always good about, we have a local donut shop there, and I'll go by and I buy 6 or 8 dozen donuts, and I would take my business card to those boxes, and I'd go get me a handful of those styrofoam coolers, filling them up with drinks, and I would go make cold calls to these apartment complexes and make sure these women had donuts and cold drinks, because you treat them right, they'll treat you right. And they like a good smiling face. They're always dealing with grumpy tenants. Somebody always wants something from them but never gives them anything. And so I never would ask them for any business. I just, hey, look, I'm just coming by to see you. You got anything you need to talk about? I went in there pushing them. They've got tremendous amounts of pressure with their job. So I don't want to be the same influence. And so one day I was going by and I was checking on a place, and I walked in the door, and the receptionist there, she said, you can go on in. And I was going in there to see a lady by the name of Miss Sharon. And I walked through the door, and Miss Sharon is not the one sitting at the desk. It was another lady that I had met only one time previously. Her name is Nandra Jackson. And she's on the phone, and she waves me in. She gives me the hand motion to come on in. And she says these words. She says, hey, the contractor just walked in the door. I'll call you right back. And she hangs up the phone. I look around because I'm wondering who followed me into the office. Well, she was looking right at me. And she just exhaustedly just lays on her desk. She said, Josh, can you help me? Yes, ma'am. What do you have? She was exhausted. She was just all the pressure that she's having to deal with. And she says, can you help me? Absolutely, I can. She said, I've got 9 units right down the street. There was another property that she managed that was right down the street that need to be sheetrocked. And they need to be done pretty quickly. I said, okay. She said, can you hang sheetrock? I said, yes, ma'am. Well, I still haven't ever hung a piece of sheetrock. But I wasn't going to tell her no. Yes, ma'am, I can. And she said, well, look, go down there and look at them. I'm providing the sheetrock. I'm providing the mud and the tape. You just need to provide the labor to hang it and finish it. I said, okay. She said, it's paying $5,800 per unit. I said, okay. I didn't know what she was telling me was good, bad. I had no idea. But as soon as my feet hit the outside of her door, I was on the phone to Sherwin-Williams. And I was calling somebody to say, hey, get me in touch with an outside sales rep, because I know your outside sales rep is going to know some of the guys that hang and finish sheetrock. Well, it was just a matter of minutes. I had 3 different people, and they met me at the property. I walked them through the 9 units. The best price come back to me for $2,500. And I'm sitting there. He said, look, the best I can do, Josh, is $2,500. I said, man, okay. I think I can make that work. And on the inside, I'm jumping up and down because this is the easiest money I've ever made in my life. I was like, okay, she's giving me money here. I'm paying him less money there, and I get to keep all the other. Man, what a This is it. Wow. I mean, look at this. I called my wife as soon as I got in the truck. I said, you're not going to believe this, baby. And we did the math real quick. It was crazy. It was like nearly $40,000 profit without me doing anything. All I had to do was float the bill. Like I assured my guy, I said, look, I'll pay you your check. As soon as you get it hung and finished, I'm paying you. Well, I didn't realize how long Nandra was going to take. It didn't matter because I had been very, very, very diligent about every dime, every dollar that I had made to put in the bank account, right? Because guess what? I knew that we could survive on $540 a week. You see, I know a lot of people, they'll go out there and get them a contract, and that first draw, I know a man that went and bought a boat and named his boat First Draw. And guess what? He's not in business anymore. I'm bouncing around here a little bit, but I had nearly $300,000 in the bank before I ever thought about buying me a vehicle. I was still driving my wife's 1997 Toyota Camry with a sunroof, buddy, and a rain roof because it leaked like a sieve and the windows didn't roll down. And I had to pull the cable to get the door to open because the handle was gone. But I had $300,000 in the bank. It took a phone call from my accountant before I ever went and did anything with that money. She said, hey, Josh, you better do something because you're supposed to pay some taxes. I said, what do you mean? She said, don't you want a truck? I said, I'd love a truck, but I'm not paying for one. She said, well, let Uncle Sam pay for it. I said, good deal, let's do it. That's in another lesson. But Nandra Jackson, I became her yes guy. Anything she trusted me. I got her out of that jam. Well, it wasn't long after that she said, hey, can you do the trim package and the doors as well? Yes, ma'am. I'd never hung a door in my life. I'd never run a piece of baseboard in my life. I was in a whole different field. Hey, can you do the countertops and the cabinets? Absolutely. I did it all. The plumbing, the HVAC. And thank God for technology because that's how I did it. I got on the phone and I found people, and she would tell me the number that she was going to pay me. She was providing the product, and all I had to do is simple math. I just had to vet my guy out that was fixing to do it, make sure he wasn't a turkey. Leave me high and dry, But you've got sense. Y'all are a smart group of people here. You've got sense. You can see that. You know when somebody's trying to get over on you. More than that, you've got the Holy Ghost. Doesn't He lead us? Doesn't He guide us? Doesn't He protect us? Well, so Nandra, she was that person in my life. And I believe that everybody in this house right now, God can put you in the line of the right person. I'll throw this out here for free. Find you a Hiram. If you don't know who Hiram is, go find it. Study it up a little bit. Because I believe God will provide His people with Hirams. People that they don't understand what they're doing. You see, Nandra Jackson was very liberal. She was extremely liberal. Extremely liberal. But she loved me to pieces. And she didn't know why. She didn't know why she did. I walked into her office. It was at a different property. I was there cold calling again or doing some work. I can't remember. And she was exasperated and beside herself again. She was on the phone with a contractor that was really, just eating her lunch. And she hangs up the phone. She said, that man is so ugly to me. That man, she said, I don't even want to work with him, but I got to because he's the only guy that I know that can do this stuff. I said, what stuff? Because I saw opportunity. She's ready to get rid of that yahoo. And I'm ready to step in there. It just depends on what she was needing. And so come to find out, she was needing an asphalt guy. So I bet you can't guess what happened next. You see, the story repeats itself. She's needed an asphalt guy. I said, you know what? I don't know a whole lot about that, Nandra, but I'll find somebody. So I get to work. I get on the phone. I call the asphalt companies. I find dealers and distributors. And, I just try to get my way into that world, into that stream of that flow of business, right? And educate myself and see where that goes. And, well, I was driving down Interstate 55 and I see a guy doing some work on the side of the road at a hotel. I said, hey, I need to talk to him. So I go down to the next exit, get off and go back over and talk to him. And he's got a couple of names for me. He says, hey, call these two guys. They'll probably help you out. I called two of them. One of them showed up. I walked him through the property, showed him what we needed. He said, yeah, about $12,000. Well, the contract was paying me $36,000. I said, man, if you can do it for 12, you know what? I may let you do another pothole or two, and we'll really please Nandra. So we did that. Well, this guy was in his 60s, and he had some health issues and different things. I did another couple of little small projects for Nandra, and so we agreed on a price and bought it, and the rest is history. I didn't know anything about asphalt paving, but I don't have to. I don't have to. I'm just looking for opportunity. Is this clicking? So I never went into business saying I'm going into this type of business. I never had dreams of a specific, but I was just looking for opportunity. Well, Nandra again comes back and she's exhausted. And that was the story of her life. She just ran ragged. They ran a really paper-thin management company, and they just really overloaded her. And they were making her get quotes on the lawn care portion of her portfolio. It was 9 apartment complexes. The smallest was 16 acres, and the largest was 22 acres. And she said, do you know anybody that knows how to give me a quote on this? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, Josh, AAA glass can't cut my grass. I said, what are you telling me? She said, you're going to have to get another company name. I'm not telling you can't have it. You got to get another LLC. She said, doing too much work. I said, okay, no problem. She said, look at the numbers, just see if you can do it. So I looked at the numbers, and man, it was $349,000 a year. And I could make it work with my 12 guys and my equipment cost, my operating expense. Man, I was bringing home a 6-figure income, and I didn't have to mow a blade of grass. Wow. But I was looking for opportunity. You see, that's where we can miss it if we're not careful. If we're not careful, we'll be looking for a specific, we've got it made up in our mind, this is what I'm going to do. No. Oh, I don't have to know how it's all going to work out. As long as he's involved and he's in charge, I just need the opportunity. And if he opens the door, well, the Bible says that no man can shut that door. If it's God's will, then it's just his will. I just have to put this, I have to educate myself. I have to be a good steward. There's a whole lot to this, but I just want you tonight to go walk away from here saying, look, I'm finding me an opportunity tomorrow. I'm going to go find me somebody that's willing to pay me to do whatever it's going to be. whatever the case is. And I believe that every person in this room can do that tomorrow. Now, so AAA Glass is still in existence. It's under another name. I sold it to the friend that I went in business with. He still owns that today. Does very well for himself. We went into AAA construction with the flips and the turns of the apartment complex. Anything that Nandra needed done from the plumbing to the roof, God blessed us. We're able to do all of those things. AAA asphalt paving. Y'all see a connection there? Y'all see that? See, back in those days, I wanted to have my name at the top of the phone book. We don't have phone books anymore, so now we have to pay for Google clicks. You've got to have advertisement. It's so much to hear to unpack. But so AAA paving. So because I had these trucks and trailers and things, I had flat tires and I needed oil changes. I needed all those things. And I developed a relationship with Mr. L.C. Thomas. He was the owner of the Goodyear store in Pearl, Mississippi. Had worked for Goodyear for 52 years. One day, I walked into his store. No one was in the store except for he and I. I made about 3 or 4 steps inside the doors. And it's a pretty big showroom. And so I just kind of lift my voice up and I say, "Hey, Mr. LC, when are you going to sell me this place?" He just kind of grinned sheepishly from behind his computer, giggled a little bit. He said, maybe one day. Well, I didn't realize what God had just done. Neither did he. It was only a few weeks later, just after 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting my guys lined up, and I get a phone call. And my phone says L.C. Thomas. And I answer the phone, and on the other end, there's a man that's weeping. He's crying. He always called me brother because he found out I was a preacher. He said, "Brother, I don't want to die in this place. My life's getting short, and I need to sell this business to you." I'm just telling you, when you walk with God, God does it. He will open up the doors. Try him. Oh, you give it to his storehouse, and guess what? He'll open the windows of heaven. And he'll pour out blessings that you won't even have room enough to receive. He wants to do that for his people. He wants to do that for you and for the people of this church, for his kingdom. Now, I've run a little bit late. I don't have time to completely finish here. But my wife and I were so blessed. We went from bringing home $540 a week, 2012, to last year. I'm going to share this information with you. It just is what it is. It's God's glory. Last year, and half of that year I was recovering from cancer. But last year, in the asphalt alone, we did a little over $5 million. And the tire store does about 1.2 a year. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to flip a whole lot of properties or do any land business because I was fighting for my life. But I'll tell you this, God's faithful. God's faithful. And if I'll just commit my ways to him, if I say every footstep I take, everything that I do, God, I want to bring you glory. You see, the vessel that's used, Brother Thornton, the vessel that's used for the blessing, that anointing oil that had the frankincense and those sweet smelling herbs crushed in it. You see, I'm just a conduit. The blessing comes, it comes to the vessel, and then the vessel pours out. But guess what remains with the vessel? There's always a remnant that's left in the vessel. And there's always this beautiful smelling fragrance that's left in the vessel. So when I know it's His, I'm not in control of the next phone call. I've got to do my part. But I understand, I know who my business partner is. I know what he can do. Now, is it okay if we open up for a few questions? A few questions? And then I'll stay. I'm hanging out here tonight in Monroe. If you want to spend time with me, I'm yours for the rest of the evening. But just corporately, are there any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions about how to take, anybody in here have a side gig, a side hustle? Okay. Side hustles, they can be very lucrative. But sometimes we don't understand how to take them to the next level. And so one thing, I don't know what kind of business you're in, but one thing I learned about taking my side hustle to the next level was find the things that separates me from the other guys, right? And so what would that be in construction world, it's workers' comp, and it's general liability, and it's a certificate of responsibility. If I can get those things in my hands, then guess what? Toothless Terry can't run down there to the hardware store, strap him on a hammer and a nail pouch and take my job from me. Uh-oh. Maybe I should have said shirtless Steve. I'm not sure. And so those things they're not willing to do. And one of the main things is advertisement. You've got to be creative, figure out how to advertise, get your company into the right place. You don't need to be advertising in a market that's not going to bring you business. So you've got to have an advertising budget. So with those, now, does anybody have any questions concerning any of that kind of thing?